Welcome, everyone, both in person and online. Thank you for coming to the Cosmic Center's 5 o'clock Saturday Sabbath evening service. It's a beautiful time for us to make a wonderful circle of love, opening our hearts and minds for further knowledge and enlightenment. So thank you for joining us. We'll be here for an hour. And the title of the lecture and sermon today is The Grail, Jesus, and His Mission. I have a beautiful, wonderful, symbolic, and allegorical comparison that I'm going to be sharing with you today about Jesus, his connection with the mystery schools, and how the Grail was then enacted and his journey was taught through the mystery schools and through the teachings of the Grail. And there is a beautiful, wonderful connection that we're going to make today between Lucifer's fall from heaven and Jesus's redemption of not just humanity on earth, but also the fall from Lucifer and the third of the angels that came down. And this mission had to have been enacted on many different levels and spheres of existence. So yes, I will be bringing in a lot of information from the Bible, but also some information from the mystery schools and legends of the Grail, so that you can see how all three are entwined. So I'm going to start out with a beautiful prayer to kind of set everything into a wonderful light. And this is by the Joe Ray Fellowship. Let's take a beautiful breath in, welcoming all those that are still continuing to come in here in a physical form, and maybe all of those online. Take a beautiful seat and join together in prayer. This is a prayer for paradise on earth. Great God of light, we behold your plan unfolding, whereby all spiritual clouds are dispelled, impurity and error cleansed from the realms of spirit and matter. The age of light and joy is being born. Through your infinite compassion, misguided forces waken unto truth, and negative practices cease, while forces of light, unhindered, restore the world to peace. All of nature receives your loving influence and finds its rightful place. Peaceful clouds move across brilliant skies, and the fragrance of countless flowers floats upon the air. Abundant harvests glorify the earth, every corner filled with happy voices. Boundaries between countries vanish, and ancient conflicts disappear as if dreams. All people are united, encircled by your light, and guided by your wisdom. Through service to humanity, all are blessed with health, peace, and prosperity. Great God of light, strengthen us with courage and wisdom to follow your will and realize paradise on earth. So as we join together in this beautiful circle of light, may we ask that wisdom descend down into us and through us. And as I spoke, we were going to be talking about the legends of the Holy Grail. That through the legends, and there are many, one of them, the legends, spoke about that the Grail was composed and fashioned from a translucent central gemstone that was dislodged from Lucifer's crown. When the sword of Michael, the archangel, knocked it from his pride-filled head as he was being cast out of heaven. And I will be giving you some passages that will explain where we're going to say Lucifer was pride-filled, where are the passages in the Bible that it comes from. And then we're going to marry that with the legends of the Grail, and you'll see why they're both entwined together. This green gemstone fell like a meteorite from the presence of God and dropped to earth along with a third of the stars of heaven. It has been said that it was endowed with magical properties and was used at the Last Supper by Jesus, as well as by Joseph of Arimathea, to capture the Savior's blood at his crucifixion. I'm going to explain, this is going to be very important, because as Lucifer fell on an etheric level and was cast onto earth, he went from the etheric realms of heaven onto the physicality of earth. So then Jesus, he is light captured in a physical body, in human form. And by his blood, when it's captured in the blood, his blood comes into the Holy Grail. That was the gemstone that literally was polished and given at the Last Supper and used, as well as capturing the blood when he was crucified. When his blood touches the Grail cup, this is actually, by legend, Lucifer's central crown. The redemption of humanity begins. And it's not just the redemption of humanity from our fall from paradise. It's the whole Lucifer's fall with the third of the angels. So Jesus was enacting a plan that was way bigger and grander than we could have even imagined, and on many different levels. So a little bit about the Grail and a little bit about the mystery schools, just so you have a template from which I'm working. Because it was the Holy Grail that King Arthur sent his knights on a quest for. And we'll be discussing how the Heavenly Grail is connected to Christ's mission. It literally, all of Christ's hidden knowledge, because Jesus was born into a mystery school family. And I have done another lecture and sermon on Jesus's connection with the mystery schools. And you can find that'll be, uploaded onto Zoom under the Saturday Sabbath, where Jesus himself literally was born, and the mystery school teachings speak of this. And I'll actually give you some books that you can speak. I might have them here. The mystery school teachings actually have written some of this. Of course, they've hidden a lot still, but they released a lot of this information that Jesus was born into the Essene family, but the Essenes were connected with the Great White Brotherhood, and that was all over the world. And they knew that he was an incoming light, the divine Son of God. And the three wise men visited him, brought him both the frankincense, myrrh, but money, and they gave him a necklace that showed that he literally was the divine Savior. And he had an entrance and passage paid at Mount Carmel in the mystery schools there. So Jesus was known as a Savior. He was known throughout the mystery schools. So the mystery school teachings have always had the knowledge embedded and given it to the initiates. It has now been brought forth for those who have eyes to see and ears to hear, It has been in books. And so this is just one of the books. And there's another book. This is The Mystical Life of Jesus. And there's another one called The Secret Doctrines of Jesus. And in both of those, if you would like, you can read for yourself the story of Jesus's mystical journey, where he was coming from, how Mary was both blessed, and the story of Mary and Jesus, and how the mystery schools kept the knowledge, a lot of the hidden teachings. So these are something that you can pursue later, but I'm giving that to you so that you know where this information is coming from. So when we say, how was the Grail legends connected? Because the Grail legends were the hidden mystery school teachings, and the troubadours brought them through, and they had it in poetry. Think of some of the, when you look at the Knights of the Round Table, and think of, they had wonderful virtues. That was the vows that they were instructed to do right, to right the wrongs, to be virtuous. So those are all the same teachings that Jesus was telling us, to think pure thoughts. And so a lot of the allegorical meaning of what the troubadours were speaking of, and the quest of the Holy Grail, that's all embedded in Christ's teachings. So now I'm going to show you this connection with the Grail and Lucifer, and how this all matches with Christ redeeming that entire journey of Lucifer's fall. So let's talk about Christ also having a mission. And I wanted to explain this. We have to know who Lucifer was. And in the Bible, and it's very interesting, he was beloved beyond measure. And then Lucifer was beloved, and so was Judas. Think of the connections. And so let's talk just a little bit about, when we're going to start from the beginning, when Lucifer, because this is where the journey starts. And a lot of the biblical things, as well as the mystery schools, as well as the Grail, are all written with metaphors. They're symbolic in nature. And when we know that, it's the story, what is it telling you from a bigger picture? So let's ask ourselves, who was Lucifer, and where does it say he was cast out of heaven? So we can talk about, let's look at Revelations 12:7-9. Now, war rose in heaven, Michael and his angels fighting against the dragon, and the dragon and his angels fought back. But he was defeated, and there was no longer any place for them in heaven. And the great dragon was thrown down, that ancient serpent who is called the devil and Satan, the deceiver of the whole world. He was thrown down to earth, and his angels were thrown down with him. Now that's in Revelations. We look again in Luke 10:18. And he said to them, I saw Satan fall like lightning from heaven. And that's Jesus speaking of this, that he's telling everyone, I saw Satan fall like lightning from heaven. Ezekiel, you were an anointed guardian cherub. I placed you. You were on the holy mountain of God. In the midst of the stones of fire you walked. And that's speaking, this is who Lucifer was. Now remember how beloved, he's a light, right? But now we start to get a glimpse of what happened. Why is there a war in the heavens? Why was Lucifer cast out when he was an angel? Ezekiel 28:17. Your heart was proud because of your beauty. You corrupted your wisdom for the sake of your splendor. I cast you to the ground. I exposed you before kings to feast their eyes on you. Now, again, we're going to go back to Revelations 12:4. And this is where we get the information that a third of the stars or angels came down to earth when Lucifer was cast out. Revelations 12:4. His tail swept down a third of the stars of heaven and cast them to earth. And the dragon stood before the woman who was about to give birth, so that when she bore her child, he might devour it. So that's where we're getting this whole journey of Lucifer being cast down from the etheric heavens, paradise. He was one with God. He became proudful, pride-filled. Isaiah 14:12. All these are I statements too. That's when you can see he starts saying, I this, I want. And that's where we're getting the information from the Bible that Lucifer is pride-filled, because it's all about him. Revelations 12:9, and the great dragon was thrown down, the ancient serpent who is called the devil and Satan, the deceiver of the world. He was thrown down to the earth, and his angels were thrown down with him. Now, what I also want to show you is that Jesus had a mission, and I'm going to combine that because we now know that Lucifer is coming down, and some of in the mystery schools we're going to speak of, we have a little bit more information that in heaven, in the etheric realms, it was Michael the archangel who cast Lucifer out of the heavens because of his pride-filled nature, because he did not want to bow down and pay homage to the humans. And this is the legends within the mystery schools, that you have God high, the holy, you have Michael to the right with his sword, and you have Gabriel to the left, and he has a beautiful Grail vessel that's pure and holy. And behind Gabriel are the newly fashioned humans. Michael is to the right. Lucifer is saying he will not bow down, he will not pay homage, he wants to go and do things himself. So he fashions for himself stones and a crown. And this is the eye. And so Michael the archangel, this is where the conflict comes in. And that Michael, because Lucifer has fashioned himself a crown, the central one is the green gemstone. Michael the archangel takes his sword and he knocks it from Lucifer's pride-filled head, knocks the crown off of Lucifer's head. He takes his spear, opens the etheric gaseous, opens, so that from heaven, he's going to cast Lucifer out. And out of the crown, here is this green gemstone that Lucifer fashioned for his crown of glories. He wants to do it himself. And so Lucifer falls down from heaven onto earth. And you can hear that in some of the Bible verses. Along with him comes this green gemstone that he had fashioned. And so now what I'm going to explain something to you is that as he comes down, there's legends have it as to where the Grail came from and was given to. And it's all associated with Joseph of Arimathea, but it became Solomon's bowl. And I'm going to come down here and also talk to you when we get to it about Judas. But let's look in Matthew 18, because now we have Jesus and he's saying, this is what's very interesting. Jesus is saying he's coming to fulfill the law in many different verses, but this is a beautiful one here in Matthew 5:18. For verily I say unto you, till heaven and earth pass, One jot or one title shall in no wise pass from the law till all be fulfilled. So Jesus many times was instructing that he came to fulfill the law. So he knew he had this grand mission. And let's think now, if Lucifer is cast out, think that there is a spear. This is Michael the archangel literally gashes the heaven open, right? He has a sword. He knocks the crown from Lucifer's head because he went and fashioned this himself. That's the I, that's the selfish part, right? So think of the sword, and now think of the spear of destiny. So you can kind of see, you're starting to see a correlation. So here, Lucifer is being cast out. Jesus is now the Son of God, knowing that he has a mission to fulfill, and he's instructing us that he's coming here to fulfill a mission. Lucifer was selfish and he had hatred in him. And this is I will do this, and I will not pay homage to what God did or what he fashioned. Where did Lucifer's stone fall? Where does the legend of the Grail begin? The stone, and this I'm going to give it to you, is by Douglas Gabriel, and he is an ex-Jesuit priest. And so you can see even in the Catholic religions, you have this legend. So this is a Jesuit priest explaining what happened to this emerald green gemstone that Lucifer fashioned. The stone of Lucifer's crown fell into the deepest part of earth, Palestine. It was found and brought to the king of Tyre, who polished it into a bowl that looked like a heavenly emerald. This bowl was given to King Solomon by the king of Tyre to place in the Holy of Holies of Solomon's temple. Joseph of Arimathea used this bowl to gather the blood and water of Jesus of Nazareth during and after the crucifixion. When the blood of the Son of God touched the stone of Lucifer's crown, that's why I wanted to give you that Lucifer had fashioned his own crown. Do you see this? It has now become Solomon's bowl. The redemption of Lucifer began. So it's not just humanity. The blood of the gods, divine consciousness, has spread to all humans and merged with their blood, spiritual consciousness, transforming the human being into a potentially immortal divine being. And Lucifer, having Jesus Christ's human divine blood pour into his jewel of the crown, the emerald bowl, the Holy Grail, finally bowed before human Jesus of Arimathea, of Nazareth, and recognized his sin of pride, which caused his fall from paradise. So now let's connect this to the Grail, and we're going to speak of what the Grail does. When the blood in the body of Christ united with the earth, humanity was given the blood of the gods that can transform the kingdom of Lucifer and earth, because that's where his domain is, into the sacred Grail castle. These secrets are referred to as the mysteries of the holy blood relics and the quest for the Holy Grail. If a seeking aspirant, a Grail knight, understands the living imagination of the crucifixion and the resurrection of Jesus, he has entered the Grail castle, where the Grail maidens, the three Marys, display their devotion to the Grail and ask the important question, who does the Grail serve? That question is where the whole journey of the Grail ends with Sir Galahad. He was the only Grail knight. And you can see this is a beautiful rendition of the Grail being given to Sir Galahad, because he's finally learned, after trials and tribulations, he kept all of his virtues in a pure heart. He finally learns to ask, where and why is the king suffering? Where is the evil on earth? Why is the king suffering? And when he realizes that, he is granted conscious immortality. And Sir Galahad then, once he has been given the sight and the vision and the knowledge of the Holy Grail, his consciousness is raised. He then gives his spear that he was given at the beginning of his quest, and he gives it back to the king. Do you see this, the spear again? So Michael the archangel used his spear to gash the heavens. This same spear in legend was given to Sir Galahad when he was presented before King Arthur and his knights. And Sir Galahad was the only one of the knights that kept pure heart and was able to keep all the virtues, overcome all the vices, and attain that same level of beautiful conscious immortality, seeing what is beyond the veil with purity. And so what we are given here with the story of the Grail is we need, think of the spear, think of the Grail, think of the high virtues and our sins. The Grail knights were instructed to go and do good deeds, right? To think of only one maiden, that's the emotions and the purity. To be pure of heart, pure of intention, right the wrongs, and that was their quest, and to find the Holy Grail. Many of the knights got off the path, the quest. One was tempted. He saw a tree with a golden apple and thinking, well, I'll just stop for a moment and I'll get a couple of gold apples because that will help with the materialism, right? And as soon as he did that, he couldn't find his path back again. Think of Sir Lancelot. That was imbalanced love that brought the whole King Arthur's court down. So anything that we have to be looking at overcoming temptations, just like Buddha, just like Jesus was tempted, right? So we have to, on earth, overcome all these temptations, keep our virtues or acquire the virtues. Do you see that? And then attain the enlightenment by keeping everything pure. That's the transmutation of humans into the divine state. And that's the story of the Grail. That's why Sir Galahad was finally bestowed the vision and the glories and the understanding of the Grail. So the Grail legend is intimately connected with Jesus's mission. We need to use the spear. Think of the spear because Sir Galahad was given the spear, and the legend has it that when he was presented to King Arthur, remember the Knights of the Round Table? And none of them had yet attained the Holy Grail. When Sir Galahad was presented to them, and an older gentleman came, and Sir Galahad was cloaked, but they are presuming that was Joseph of Arimathea, and that was his teacher and bloodline. And he was presenting before King Arthur, Sir Galahad. And at that time, Merlin, who had in the Knights of the Round Table, he had put a spell on one of the chairs. That was the vacant chair. And that was for the one that would see and attain the Holy Grail. And as soon as Sir Galahad came in with Joseph of Arimathea, and he was presented as a knight, everything emblazoned and everything opened, and the writings on the chair with the Knights of the Round Table, it came revealed. So we're seeing in the legend stories that Sir Galahad was going to be the Holy One. He was going to be the one to attain the Grail. He was going to be able to be the perfected man. What is Jesus now doing? Think of what Jesus is doing. So when we think of Jesus's crucifixion, I'm going to give you a little bit now of the story. You now know the story of Lucifer coming down. You've now seen the connection with this green emerald of Lucifer's crown. That becomes the Holy Grail, in which Jesus's blood is captured in human form. Lucifer is deciding that he is not going to bow down to humans. He is not going to bow down to anybody. And so it's self-will, jealousy, and hatred. Those are the vices, are they not? So those are the same vices that we have on earth. Those are the same vices that the knights had to contend with, and the temptations. So Lucifer is cast down here to earth. This is his domain. We are now born as humans here, but so is Christ. Christ is the divine Son of God, but he knows that he has a grander mission, and it is the redemption of us humans, but it is also the restoration of the fall of Lucifer. So now when we think of what Jesus was enacting, I want to share with you a little bit of the mystery school teachings. So in the mystery school teachings, Jesus had not just 12 disciples, he had 120. Under each of his 12 disciples, there were 10. So we have 120 disciples, and that he would meet with them in secret. And he would give them, there was a bigger circle, and that was when he was given information, and you can read this in the Bible. For those that cannot see or are ignorant, Jesus would speak in parables and give them only what they, like pablum, that a baby could understand. But each concentric circle, and that's how the mystery schools teach, as you bring your initiates in, you bring them closer to you and you reveal more knowledge. And only when the aspirant or the initiate has totally revealed himself and been found worthy, just like Sir Galahad seen the Grail, right? So when you're found worthy, then Jesus was meeting with his 120 disciples in meeting places. And I've already done the research on this, which you can go back in on the other prior meetings. I've given you Bible verses that will even show where they were meeting. And so they were meeting in secret places, usually where it was open and hidden. And they would meet 2 by 2, and they were given secret knowledge and code words where they were supposed to meet. And Jesus would demonstrate to his 120 disciples the physical laws of what he was enacting and why and wherefore, and the spiritual information. And he would have each initiate and each disciple with a certain mission. So what's really interesting here is that Jesus, when he was being crucified, knew that this was the plan, knew he came to fulfill the law. He was instructing every single person what they were to do. All the Marys had their plan. They had individuals that were hidden, that no one ever knew that they were a disciple, and they were relaying information to Herod. When Jesus would speak, now think about it, he was speaking from the mountain sides, he was speaking from the sea, he was by the seaside, he was out in the open. Jesus was taught, he was instructed at Mount Carmel, he was taught in Tibet, he knew many different languages. He was instructed in Kabbalah, he was an initiate of the highest order. So he could speak to many different people in veiled language. And he was bright enough, understanding his mission, and sent out his emissaries the whole time. Would you not think that he knew what his grand mission was? And that he knew it was like a play, like a stage play. He knew on earth it was the stage, it was set, and he was there to redeem the world. So he sent all the people out to do and enact their missions. And what I would say to you is what we've heard. Think of Judas. And who was Judas? He was a beloved disciple of Jesus. He walked with him. And even here, the Gospel of Judas, this was, you can look it up, you can find it online. This was hidden and it's now available to anyone who wants to look online. The Gospel of Judas. Who was he? And this is Jesus explaining to Judas many things. So this is Judas saying, I'm not worthy to utter the name of the one who has sent you. He's talking to Jesus. Knowing that Judas was reflecting upon something that was exalted, Jesus said to him, step away from the others, and I shall tell you the mysteries of the kingdom. It is possible for you to reach it, but you will grieve a great deal, for someone else will replace you in order that the 12 disciples may again come to completion with their God. Jesus already knew what was to happen, but is he not granting Judas all the mysteries? And Judas is saying he's seeing these things, but he's going to grieve. Now, here, Judas said, Master, could it be that my seed is under the control of the rulers? Jesus said to him that you will grieve much when you see the kingdom in all its generations. When he heard this, Judas said to him, what good is it that I have received this knowledge of the heavens? Only the Holy of Holies. And this is Judas speaking, for you have set me apart for that generation. And to understand this next part, the Pistis Sophia, which was a hidden Gnostic text that was found and discovered in the Nag Hammadi desert. And that speaks in Christ's, in a Christ resurrected body, he comes back in light form. And all of the disciples, including Mary and Mary Magdalene, but all the disciples are there. And Jesus is having a question and answer session. And he's speaking of the things that he could not speak to them when he was on earth, but he can now reveal to them. So that's the Pistis Sophia, that is another beautiful work. And they speak of the aeons, but think of the aeons as many dimensions. So these are works that you can get hold of, that you can delve into, that you can look at and contemplate on. So when he's speaking of this is the same type of verbiage that's given to you in the Pistis Sophia. Jesus answered and said, you will become the 13th, and you will be cursed by the other generations, and you will come to rule over them. Rule over them. In the last days, they will curse your ascent to the holy generation. So Judas is going to be uplifted. He has already seen the Holy of Holies. Jesus has set him apart. For there exists, Jesus said, come, that I may teach you. Now he's telling Judas, bringing him aside. Come, that I may teach you about secrets no person has ever seen, in which there is a great invisible spirit, which no eye of an angel has ever seen, no thought of the heart has ever comprehended, and it was never called by any name. And a luminous cloud appeared there, and he said, let an angel come into being as my attendant. And a great angel, the enlightened divine self-generated, emerged from the cloud. Because of him, 4 other angels came into being from another cloud, and they became attendants for the angelic self-generated. Here, we're learning that Judas was instructed in the Holy of Holies. He's going to literally be the director of the 13th aeon. So I would ask that we start thinking for ourselves, Could it be? I don't know this. But when you have a beloved one that you're educating and giving all this information to, Jesus knew he had this mission. He came to fulfill the law. We see this in the Bible, verse after verse after verse. Jesus was instructed. He knew he had a grand plan and a grand design. And what he had to do had to be done in a physical way, in a human body, to redeem the humans, but also Lucifer, the split in heaven that occurred. Jesus is here to fix and redeem and to forge the path from the lower realms, all the way of the Bardo realms, the underworld, all the way up. In this you find in the Pistis Sophia, he'll speak of this, from the lower realms all the way to the higher realms. And that's what Jesus was doing in those 3 days, is forging that path, creating it, because we have been lost in Maya, in ignorance, have forgotten with the kiss of forgetfulness. And Jesus is forging that path, and he's instructing his disciples, he's explaining to that. And that whole circle has now been redeemed. And so that's the path of salvation. When we ask what salvation is, it's way more. It's on many different dimensions. And it's the salvation that each of us have. Each of us humans take this path. We can be the knights of the round table to quest after the Holy Grail. We are to subdue the temptations and the vices using the spear if we have to, you see? And the Holy Grail is the purity, keeping that alight and open and revealing the knowledge that is our divine inheritance. That's the redemption. So Galahad makes that. He's a savior at that point in time. He's able to see the Grail. And he ascends in the legend and the lore up to the etheric realms. You see that? Just like you can see this, one's a mirror reflection of the other. Jesus ascends after the resurrection. He is attained, he has been perfected. He was the perfect one. He took human form. He enacted his mission on it was a stage play on earth, that he was fulfilling the mission and the laws that he came to do. So then you see in the Holy Grail, the legend, whether it's real or not, it's allegorical, it's symbolic, do you see? So when you look at the metaphor on that, Sir Galahad, that's where you see the connection with the Grail, the knights, the quest, the temptations, because we have to find the Holy Grail, the perfection, right? And then Sir Galahad, the story of the Grail is Sir Galahad finds the Grail castle the first go around, but he doesn't ask the right question. And he has to come back and learn through trial and error and deep sorrow what is the reason and the why of evil. Where's the suffering beginning? And when he gets the answer to that, that's when he gets the Grail. So that's the question that we have. We are born in physical bodies, just like Jesus. And we are given the temptations, but we also have that divine imprint that was gifted to us from up in heaven, you see? And that was the whole journey. So we can quest to become co-creators with Jesus. And that's now when you see the Eucharist, think of the cup. And that was done with the Essenes. That whole thing with the cup and the Eucharist, you can even see that evidenced before Jesus was born. So that's in with the Essenes. You can see that in Qumran. But Jesus uses this, the Eucharist, in a new fashion. Does that not look, think, and be similar to the Grail, the cup? You see that? So you have the cup, the holy cup, capturing the blood of Jesus. This is the legend of the Grail, right? Is that not what we do in the Eucharist? Your, my body, my blood, co-creating, becoming part of the redemption here as humanity is redeemed. As we learn to crucify the vices, acquire the virtues, every last one of us can walk the path that Christ emblazoned. And so that's where you get the play with the Holy Grail. It's literally the hidden teaching in the mystery schools. But can you see now the connection even with the cup with the Eucharist that we're using? And that's the same type of legend. It's symbolic. So what I wanted to go through here is to literally talk a little bit about Sir Galahad and give you some other Bible verses to show you where you can find these. Galahad was, of all the knights, the one that was proven to be pure. He had his trials and his tribulations, but he was able to achieve perfection by overcoming all the temptations, making the right choices. Was Jesus not doing the same thing? But he is the embodiment of God. He is the Son of God, you see? So can you see one is kind of playing the legends of the other one? And when you think of the mystery schools, think of all the times that they could have been purged, the Catholic Church, all the witch hunts. So the mystery schools hid a lot of these teachings. And the mystery schools only gave the information to the ones that were proved worthy, that were deemed worthy. Well, Jesus was taught in the same mystery school fashion. So he gave only to his disciples, those that were the most worthy, everything that they needed. So when I come back here, we're going to read just a little bit from the Bible, and I'm going to see if there's any questions. Again, we're going to ask Lucifer, what was it that he was embodying? Could he be embodying all the vices? He's an example of the vices that we deal with here on earth. He was beloved, right? But he chose the I. And then he separates from the Godhead, falls to earth. And then the journey here is for us to acquire all of the virtues, overcoming the temptations of coming back to the Godhead. And the great plan is enacted and revealed, but isn't every one of us becoming like a God in that way, that we're becoming, everything is becoming revealed to us, that we have learned way more for our journey. So Lucifer's journey is sort of like our journey, and we have to become perfected, and he has to become perfected. That's the symbolic analogy that was being made here. Who was Lucifer? Let's ask him. Beloved, at the throne of God. Is there a bigger picture here? Is this the self-generating where you separate to gain knowledge, to be fulfilled, to gain strength and wisdom, to come back into the fold again, and come back, but with more glory and more understanding? So our journey is to fulfill the mission of salvation, and that's to be pure. This is Lucifer. How art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning? How art thou cut down to the ground, which didst weaken the nations? For thou hast said in thine heart, I will ascend into heaven. I will exalt my throne above the stars of God. I will sit also upon the mount of the congregation in the sides of the north. I, Hear all the I's again. I will ascend above the heights of the clouds. I will be at the Most High. Yet thou shalt be brought down to hell, to the sides of the pit. Again, this is the self-will, I, and he becomes jealous and rage-filled. How many of those emotions are here on earth that we have to look at ourselves, overcome all of those temptations, and choose the right thing to do? That's the unity, that's the love, that's the compassion. Opening our heart and letting the good prevail, just like Sir Galahad. Jesus enacted this. He enacted it in physical form. He did it as a human form filled with God on physical earth, creating that beautiful pathway back to heaven. So as it was done in the heavens, so also done from earth. Do you see? And Christ fixed it and forged the way back. So that's where his journey becomes our journey. And I think this is what the mystery school teachings will tell us. When we take even Jesus with the Eucharist, when you take of his body and of his blood, you're taking of the redemption, you're taking his journey on earth. And we should, with questioning minds and open hearts, be open to all this knowledge and wisdom, that we can have inquiring hearts, open, not hard-hearted, to be open with pure love. Even Jesus said, be ye wise as a serpent, but as pure as a dove. So we have to have wisdom to know the journey, know what is here, and always question things. But part of the legend is we are to become perfect in the eyes of God, overcoming all the trials and tribulations. And that is how we become like Sir Galahad on the journey back home to the Godhead. So wanted to see if there's any questions, to see, did I make the connection with the jewel that was Lucifer forged, that you see in his crown. And you also see the connections with the spear. Michael having, Michael the archangel having a spear and a sword. He uses a sword to knock it off the crown of glories. Do you see the I? He knocks it off, and then he takes a spear and he opens the heavens, casts Lucifer out. And in so doing, that's the green gemstone that becomes the Holy Grail.
And did Sir Galahad get the spear? Or
Sir Galahad was given the spear when he was presented to the court. So at the Knights of the Round Table, Sir Galahad was presented as a young man of about 19, and he had an elderly gentleman that was in a cloak, that legend has it was Joseph of Arimathea, and that he was his teacher, and that Sir Galahad was of the bloodline of Joseph of Arimathea, and had been schooled and instructed to be worthy, to be able to find the Grail. So he was schooled, entrusted with knowledge. Do you see that? Just as Jesus was schooled with the Essene schools in Mount Carmel. So Sir Galahad was presented, supposedly, that's where the legends are, because did any of this really happen? We don't know. We know it's allegorical. We know it's written in metaphor. But metaphor states that Sir Galahad was presented to King Arthur and all the Knights of the Round Table. He was 19, young and vibrant. He was given a special cloak, and this elderly gentleman, supposedly, a master, presents him. And everyone is saying that this is Joseph of Arimathea, presenting he had instructed Sir Galahad in all the things that he would need to do to be able to attain the Holy Grail. And he was given at that time a spear. He goes on his journey. He was able to find the Holy Grail, attain that conscious immortality, the knowledge that the Grail gives you. And he then gives his spear back. Do you see? And so that's very interesting that they have the analogy with the spear and then the Grail cup. Any other questions?
So you're saying the Grail is not really real. You're just saying that it's an analogy.
We've never been able to find it. When you look online, there's about 4 or 5 different Grail cups that they think might be the Grail, but they've authenticated one that goes back to the 1st century. And so you have these legends and they're hidden away. I think there's 4 or 5. So you can see them, you can go to the churches, but we don't have the evidence yet. They can carbon date, they can look, there's in the style of, but we can't know exactly for certain. Yes, we can see these cups. We know we have the legends. I'm not in a position, because I'm not with authority to tell you that is the Grail cup for sure. But when Jesus spoke, think of it, if he's speaking for the masses and he's using simple analogies, right? Like the fish and the fishermen, something that has significance to them. He's also using other symbols for the higher initiates. So Jesus was always speaking in allegory. He was also speaking in parables. He was schooled in all those ways, and he spoke many different languages. So he could custom tailor his knowledge to the masses. But then what did he do? He brought in all the people closer and closer for those that were worthy, and then gave them more and more and more knowledge. So we are left, did the Grail exist? Was it in physical form?
What about the green gemstone? Do you think that's physical, or do you think that's another analogy?
I looked there's 4 different Grail cups, and they're all golden. One's simple, one's got the jewel encrusted. And there was one green alabaster jar that they think Mary Magdalene anointed Jesus' feet with. And they were able to find that it was from that century. And they truly think that it might have come from that, because it was hidden. It's in one of those, it was hidden in a church. And someone broke into it and they found this alabaster jar. So that could have been maybe perhaps they were saying, could that be the Grail? I don't know. Would Mary Magdalene have had an alabaster jar? I think it would have been more ancient than that. But when you're forging something, you can forge it in an etheric plane. And, part of earth is bringing it here into concrete form. Could it be that the Grail really exists? I would like to hope so, but I can't authenticate one at this point in time. I can tell you the legends. I can speak of the mystery schools, what the knowledge they have endowed us with that kind of complement this. The Holy Grail, I think, it's attainment of knowledge. When you're absolutely pure, you've opened up all your chakras with absolute purity. And you're able to attain conscious immortality. How do you do that? By having all the different layers of existence in eternity. They said that's what the Grail gives you, a glimpse into eternity. That's when you're totally open with expanded conscious awareness. And that is the quest, to touch the divine and eternity. I think it would be nice if we had a physical cup, but I think our journey is such that we can attain it. We can be the Holy Grail.
You probably knew that the blood back then actually meant life. It could be life and spiritual, it could be physical life too. It could be either one when they mentioned blood back then.
But, to me, if Jesus spoke on many different layers, it doesn't have to be one or the other. It could be both.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Because then, some are arguing that the Grail was actually, Mary Magdalene. She was pregnant with Jesus's baby. Is there truly a bloodline that gave rise to all the dynasties? Very interesting. I know the Shroud of Turin has, when they analyze the blood, it was AB negative, which I thought was very interesting. So that's our question. And to me, I think they will unearth more knowledge, but at this point in time, it would be secondary if we could find a Grail cup. But isn't consciousness, everything is energy, everything is consciousness. We can attain full consciousness. And I think that's Jesus's mission here, is to help us. And that's where he paved the way from all the dimensions below us to all the dimensions above us, up to the Godhead itself, the throne of the Holy of Holies. So you have a casting out. And now think of this, the legend even in the Bible, the casting out of us out of paradise, right? And shall we toil? That's that you can start seeing all the similarities. So we are cast out, we have to toil, but we have to then be granted, just like the prodigal son. You see that? We're coming back home to the Holy of Holies, touching eternity itself, becoming fully consciously aware. And it's very interesting that you have some of these legends in Genesis, and I'm going to be speaking about that too. But Genesis and the legends and this apple, what does the apple mean? And I did stumble upon this. This is very interesting, but remember there's two trees in Genesis. The tree of knowledge of good and evil, and then one, the tree of life. And that's immortality. And so that's very interesting. And then even in the Egyptian hieroglyphs, you see them drinking from the cup, like a Grail cup. And, you know, that has a lot of significance then when you drink from this holy cup, right? And the Egyptians, this knowledge, when you'll see it engraved in the glyphs, you know, was before, way before the Grail legends. But you can see that to me, it's the Grail is perfection, strength, compassion, all the virtues that Jesus embodied here. And you can attain that. He was like a yogi. He mastered all of this physically to be able to put back in place that beautiful, it's like a circle. You're cast out, you come to earth, and you go back to heaven. And to attain full awareness.
In the physical form, I think Lucifer tempted Adam and Eve by saying, surely when you eat from it, you will become like God, knowing good and evil. That wasn't the lie, because once we did eat from it, we've learned what good and evil is now, and we are like God in that sense.
We're becoming more fully aware. And I had a thought, it just came to me, that the fall is out of the heavens, right? The fall, when we're all made to feel guilty. Oh, you know, we fell from grace, right? But the fall to me is a fall in consciousness. If we're light and we're awareness, when we fall, can we not fall as the light being into physical bodies on earth? Earth could be reminiscent or symbolic of the apple. Our bodies, because then when you go back in Genesis, you have the fall, right? We can fall as light awareness, full consciousness, into these physical bodies on earth. And on earth, I ask any of you, have you not tasted good and evil? When you eat of the apple, and that to me means coming to earth, tasting earth, physical form, taking form, and eating of the apple of good and evil. The journey then is to acquire the virtues, keep down the vices, and attain perfection all the way back to the Godhead.
Yeah. Now, I'm not sure if you mentioned the word redemption with Lucifer.
That's what Jesus was doing.
But you're not saying that Lucifer has redemption qualities to get back to his...
Jesus came to pave the way, and with his blood, when it was captured supposedly in the Holy Grail, you see that in physical form, Lucifer acquires humility and then bows down to God and the beings that he made. Do you see? Because Gabriel, this is the legend here. This is up in heaven. You have Michael to the right with his sword and spear, Gabriel to the left with all the newly fashioned humans. And then Gabriel's holding this beautiful, pure, holy vessel, right? So that's supposedly the whole conflict. And Lucifer is saying, I'm not going to bow down. I'm not going to bow down to humans. I'm better. I want this. I read that to you. I want this. I want the glories. And he goes off and forges this crown and puts, all the light stones. You see that in it. And so that's what Michael, the archangel, knocks off his head, your pride-filled head. So when Jesus comes to earth in physical form, just like we did, right? Jesus is the Son of God, full awareness, full conscious awareness, but he takes physical form. And then when he's crucified and he bleeds, that's where he's the lamb. You see the sacrificial lamb, that's where you get that. He's the lamb, the sacrificial lamb, his blood. And it's through his blood that we are redeemed. And that's what this is a bigger understanding of, that what's happening is he's fixing what Lucifer did, redeeming the split. Do you see that? Coming to earth, redeeming not just humanity, but creating a path and forging a path back for Lucifer to be redeemed, because Lucifer finally bows down to God. His pride is cast aside when Jesus is able to do that. That's the whole story.
In Revelation, though, he's cast into
A pit.
hell. Yes, pit. How is that different from the esoteric or whatever, the legend?
I think, David, what they're talking about, Jesus, when he was crucified for 3 days, he went down to the lower regions. Do you see? Creating the path for everybody, all the lower entities, everything that's down there, forging that path for everyone. That's the salvation plan for humans, for us, for every single person, every single entity, every energy, every consciousness. He forges the path, at least makes the way. That's when he said, I am the way, the path, and the truth, you see. So yes, could he have forged the path and created the straight way for even Lucifer to be redeemed?
You're saying he could have.
Yes, he forged the path. It's Lucifer's journey, just like it's our journey. Can you overcome your pride? Can you overcome your jealousy and your hate? You see?
And I find it interesting that it says in the Bible that the angels that have sinned, so like they have free will, like we have.
Yes. So sometimes I've heard it both ways. Sometimes I've heard that angels have sin, sometimes or free will, and sometimes they don't. So can Lucifer overcome all of his vices just like we did? Do you see that? It was Jesus who forged the path for everyone, you see, to be able to be redeemed. So that's the bigger picture here. Who knows if it's being done? Can it, did Jesus create the path for it? Yes. That's what that's about. He created that path and forged it. Yes, Mark.
Thank you.
Well, I believe this is a very timely cycle for this story to be told, because of where we are now as America, way short of the world. The separation between the light and the dark could not probably be any clearer to us anywhere we go, whether it's the news or people dealing with this through the internet, or watching the difference between the political systems that are literally separative and evil and those that are arising where people are saying no more. Now, what I'd like to see happen is take this story, because it's so applicable right now.
It is, absolutely, I
We are in the
concur.
exact moment where humanity must have here's where it gets down to the earth, because as a Taurus, I want to see the practical application. Now, we need practices, whether the exact allegories are exactly true or not. The essence of it is real.
Yes.
I just said Israel also, which is in the process of being redeemed right now also, from a very poor regime to one where people are standing in the streets in front of governmental's homes saying, no more. We will have unity. So what I'd like to see as an outcome of this, maybe in the next section, is what are some practices that the people care enough to sit in the presence of this wonderful presentation, to take home and in their morning meditation practice begin to become the essence of this story, because it needs to be applied immediately.
And that is our story, to be the essence of this story.
So
Yes,
the
to be
question
Sir
would be,
Galahad, yes.
what will the practices be? I'm going to ask you next time you present.
So
What are the practices?
yes,
to do?
we will open that with, and some of the practices I'm going overtime, but I'm going to say, even if you wake up every morning and you think upon this, drink of the Holy Grail, that's purity. Think of, and that's the inquiry. Is there jealousness, pridefulness? Do you see that? All of the vices, am I getting embroiled in them? Transmuting the 7 deadly sins into the powers of the spirit and virtues. So how am I called to show faith, hope, love, compassion, service, and being universal, you see,
Great.
to all humanity.
Yes.
So shall we use, and I'll even bring that in, but this is symbolic, it's the essence of, use the sword of wisdom and the spear of love together, united, to conquer the dragon of selfishness and the vices. And see, to me, that's where this comes. We are called each and every day to make those choices. How can we do that? Literally, you can see that, you can drink and do it from a cup with pure water, with the pure thoughts. How am I called to have the inquiry? Where do I see selfishness in me? Where do I see hatred and jealousy? Can I open my heart? Subdue with the sword. You see all the temptations. Can I then exhibit with every thought, word, and deed purity? And that's our journey. That's what Sir Galahad did, and that's how he attained the Grail.
So in short, each of the 7 virtues becomes a practice, a tool.
Yes,
right?
every one of the virtues become a practice. And every day you have to ask yourself, am I exhibiting any of the vices, and can I crush them? You see that? Can I subdue them? To be holy, to be the vessel. We are the Holy Grail. This is our body, our temple. We are called to be the Holy Grail and exemplify all these virtues. And I think that's the end meaning of this. We walk forth, we can breathe, we can see light, we can exhibit with sound. Can we say good things out of our mouth? Can we have our heart that is pure, that is giving, that sows love, not division? You see that? But also have an inquiring mind to look for yourself, not to be like sheep. Even Jesus said that. Think for yourselves and look, and we might be called during this time to have quiet courage, Mark, to stand up for what is right and holy and not play into this division. Ask ourselves, what is the agenda behind the agenda, and who's shaking it? Who's making all this discord? And choose no discord. Choose love, but with courage. And that's going to be strength, because Michael the archangel is strong. He's the one who cast Lucifer out, you see. So we are going to be called to be strong and have courage. So I'm going to close with a beautiful poem. I know I went over time. I'm so sorry, everybody, but we did have some really good questions. And I will close with the harp, and we are going to literally bring that into us with the beautiful frequencies. And kind of emblazon that. You say, let's say, what can I do every day? What kind of ritual can I have? Even before you get out of bed, you have the affirmations. I am the virtues. I am compassion. I am love. I embody holiness. I am love. Every word I speak brings goodness. I sow goodness into the soils of earth, into the hearts of humanity. I walk with wisdom, an open mind, and a heart, and I am the holy vessel. Now I'm going to see if there's anyone that has any questions here on chat, but we will be closing the service. And I will ask each and every one of you, the church does need an energetic exchange to be able to continue to do its beautiful holy mission. You can go to ccosl.com/donate should you be called to give us an energy exchange. And we really appreciate you coming here, being a part of our holy service. And I will see if there's anyone here on chat. You can feel free if anyone is there. And I'm going to close the service out now. And we will go and thank you for being here. Namaste.